Welcome, 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 welcome to another episode of Men on Fire here on Soul Mechanic TV and Soul Mechanic Radio. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about something that affects us all. And if you get this, you'll get everything else. That's all there is to it. And what that is perception. So, this is how everything works here in the universe and on Earth. So it's been said many ways. You can interchange terms and all that sort of thing, but to simplify it, I've simplified it down to three things, and that is everything works starting with perception, and then thought, which leads to creation. So three easy steps: perception, thought, creation. When you change your perception, you change your thoughts on something, isn't it? When we change our mind, maybe we decided this, or we knew something from an earlier age, we read in a book, and we found out through experience that it wasn't true. So now we changed our perception on something. So we've actually changed our thoughts on something. And if you change your thoughts, you change your reality. As many of you know, that I'm a purveyor of thoughts become things. So that is absolutely true. And the way you think is the way you feel. And the way you feel is the way you act. And the way you act gives us the results you get in your life. So that's how thoughts work. And they obviously, from that formula I just mentioned, you can see that it changes your reality by the thoughts you think. But in order to get those thoughts, there is a certain thing behind it that happens first, and that is our perception. And yes, some of you could argue, well, what about your beliefs? Well, doesn't that have to change your perceptions? What about desire? And yes, they're all in there too, but for the purposes of this, I wanted to simplify it as much as possible to just three things: what you perceive, well, it's been said, what you perceive, you believe. So your perceptions make way for your thoughts, and your thoughts allow you to create your reality that you will experience. Now, someone who always believes the glass is half empty will have an entirely different life experience than someone who believes the glass is always half full. Makes total sense, right? Because their perception on things, right? The glass is half filled, no matter what. It's halfway. So, do you perceive that to be half empty or half full? That's just, what people use as a general perception of how they look at life. And people who perceive it to be half full tend to have a much more positive perception on anything that happens to them in life, and therefore they have different thoughts, which changes their reality. So how do we decide if we're happy or not? I mean, what kind of yardstick do we use? And fortunately or unfortunately, either way, it seems to be that we judge how happy we are by unhappy we are, right? How much unhappiness is in our lives. And we do this because all of the pressures we feel, the need to make money and income, to provide, the need to keep up with others, the need to conform to society. Most of the time we judge how happy we are by our level of unhappiness. So when things are going okay, we tell ourselves, yeah, it's pretty good, I'm happy. And when they're not, we are so far down the happiness scale, it's not even funny. So we can see this kind of playing out sometimes in sports all the time, right? So it doesn't matter what sport you pick, I'll choose hockey. I'm here in Canada, why not, right? And actually, hockey is a game that changes momentum very, very quickly. So it's a good example. And if you're a hockey fan at all, you know exactly what I'm going to talk about. So let's say there's a hockey game and one team is losing 3-0. 3-0. So 3-0, and they just can't seem to do anything right that night. We've all witnessed this, right? They're just tripping over themselves. Their passes are not on the tape. They're in people's feet, or the other team's intercepting the passes all the time. The other team's first to the puck. That team that's losing 3-0 is not doing anything right. So then suddenly something happens. A lucky break. Someone intercepts a pass in the neutral zone and has a breakaway and then scores. And suddenly the score is 3-1. And they start to play a little better. Suddenly they feel a little bit uplifted. The momentum has swung slightly in their direction. They start skating harder. Their passes are right on the tape now. They're passing better and they're driving the net. And sure enough, they score again. And the score is 3-2. But the skill of the team that was down 3-0 hasn't changed, has it? They're no better now than they were a few moments ago. But what has changed is their perception of their abilities, of themselves, their confidence. They've changed that perception, which changed their thoughts, which is changing their reality. It changed their attitude, if you will. And they're thinking now, hey, hang on, we've got a chance here. We can do this. And they're probably right. Whether or not they score the tying goal and go on to win, which happens many times, and also the other team comes on stronger and they lose anyway. So that doesn't matter. What I'm trying to illustrate here is that the team changed their perceptions and their thoughts, which changed their reality. So this happens in people's daily lives all the time. They see their potential mirrored back to them in their daily lives, because what they have, their perceptions on life and where they are in their life and their happiness level, and creates their thoughts and then their reality. So they're seeing their perceptions mirrored back to them, aren't they? So the key here then is the perceptions. So let's take, for example, the energy that you feel when you meet someone new. You meet them, you shake their hand, or maybe in COVID right now, you bump elbows or ankles, whatever it happens to be. But you say to yourself, I just got a bad vibes from this guy. Or you might say, wow, like he made me feel so much at ease. I don't know how, but he made me feel good. So this energy that has been proven by scientists now, and in quantum physics as well, is the energy that creates our reality. It's the energy that's everywhere in the universe. In fact, it's what we're made up of, and so is everything else. So this energy exchange, you got the feeling then from that person, right? So it creates our reality because it attracts and reflects our inner self, our emotional self, our spiritual self, and our mental state. So when we feel fear now, for example, if you can just extrapolate that a little further, when you feel fear, we attract fear. And when you think about this fact that this happens, that we're attracting what we feel, it's absolutely genius. I mean, you know, you might think, well, that's also not that nice that we're attracting what we're feeling, but it's perfect genius. It's like a designed evolution that just works so well. So this means that what we put out is what we get back. And that's a perfect formula. Why wouldn't that be a perfect formula? What I put out there, I get back. And for everyone else too, right? So we constantly see a reflection of our inner self in our everyday life. Therefore, we can see our inner self in a physical way and learn from the experience and move on, being more experienced now. So this is genius because we now have to face what we're putting out. So putting out fear, you must face fear. Putting out anger, you must and will face anger. If you're wondering why all these angry people seem to pop out of the woodwork and you're always facing them, well, it's because you're putting anger out there. Try something else. Try a little bit of love. Stick that out there. Look at people and say, yeah, no, I love that person. I love that person. Even if you don't really deeply mean it, you can start to change your perceptions, which we'll see a little bit more in a second. But most people, however, don't want to believe this, what we've just talked about here, is because it's much easier to blame someone else for what's happening in their life. But from what we just discussed, it's plain to see now that you are 100% responsible for whatever happens in your life through the perceptions, thoughts, creation formula, right? So it's much harder to say, when something happens that, hey, I created this. I'm the one responsible. But if you do, or when you do say that, you stop creating what you don't like and start creating what you do like. You see how that follows? It all follows the perception. Because as you change your perceptions, and your perceptions change rather, particularly the perceptions of yourself change as well. So it's not just the perceptions of others, the perception, you're changing your inner perceptions of you too as you adopt this. So if you look at what we call the world, now this is going a little bit further. We're going to push this out a little bit more and go a little bit deeper here. If you look at what we call the world out there in front of us, right? Every day, every single day we look out at the world. It is just the collective perceptions of humanity. So what we see in the world, what's happening around us, is really just the collective perceptions of all human beings on this planet. So your perceptions create your daily life and actions and thoughts and reality. But if you look at a bigger scale, what's happening in the world with 7.5 billion people, everybody has their own perceptions. Everybody has their own thoughts. Everybody is creating their own world in front of them. But because we all share the same energy field and we all come from the same energy field, it gets mixed together. So through our perceptions, if we change our perceptions to head in a certain direction, we can change the world. And some people say, well, I could never change the world. It's just too much. It's too big to do. The problems are too massive. How could we ever change the world? And if you're thinking about doing it with physical means, then you'd be right. You'll never change it. You haven't got a snowball's chance in hell to change the world. You'll just never do it because it's too slow. I mean, we've got to, we have to form committees and have meetings, and someone has to take the minutes and then get back to us. And, it's that same organizational process that businesses and governments use, and it's slow. But we can do it much quicker by changing our perceptions, which is changing the energy field we all live in. So the projection of human consciousness can be changed. And together we can all change human consciousness, starting with our own. You just have to change your consciousness, which is basically just how your thinking and how your energy field operates. That's all. And how do we do that? We change our perception, which changes our thoughts, which changes our reality. So that's how simple life can be. Is your glass half empty or half full? That's a perception. If you can change your perception to believe it's half full instead of half empty, you'll see your life change. And that's just a metaphor, really, for making your perceptions change on many things. Instead of being so negative, look at the positive. Even if there is a downside, there's always an upside. There always is. There has to be two sides to everything. So if you change your perceptions, we can change the world. Because the world is just the sum total of all our perceptions. That's all it is. So I hope I pushed you a little bit and made your mind think of a few more things in a different way. I hope this video served you. I hope this podcast will make a difference in your life, at least make you think a little bit. And if you have any comments, you can leave them below on YouTube, or you can get a hold of me at mike@mikearn.com if you'd like to have some comments on this video, or even let me know on a topic you'd like to talk about. So thank you so much again, and I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Bye for now.